And then there's a galaxy game, like I said, with the galactic hide and seek. We can do that too. Okay, one of the live action games that I've seen and participated in is something that takes place in what I call Playground Town. During the 1,000 Years of Peace, I've seen this city that looks just like any other modern city we have in the 20th and 21st century. There's high-rise buildings, there's buildings made of glass, there's buildings made of steel, there's buildings made of concrete with girder beam construction and glass construction, pretty much like any of the modern cities that we have now. But these cities are designed specifically for practice. Practice by the architects and practice by the engineers and the construction workers and stuff like that. They're basically experimenting with various types of building construction and how to construct things that can be held up by gravity or force fitted. All sorts of whatever. No, I'm not a building engineer or anything like that, and I don't know all the technical terms, but basically they're building the city to practice how to build other cities and how to make other buildings. So this practice city will end up being like any major metropolitan city, but there won't be any people living in there. Again, it's a city just to practice construction. There will be floors, there will be office buildings and cubicles and things like that, and there will be stairs and there will be elevators, and there will be buildings of all sorts and types. Like I said, construction will be like a concrete and glass and steel. And one of the games that I've seen, because we, with our regenerated nature, will be free from harm, we can play superhero games. I've seen some of those superhero games in which we're actually leaping from building to building, and we're actually jumping from one office tower to another office tower. We go inside. It's basically like a cat and mouse game, except we're playing it at super fast speeds. We're heading down elevator shafts, we're flying from here to there, we're running from here to there, we're zipping down stairs as if we were on a pair of skis and stuff like that, in a cat and mouse type game through these whole buildings. And even if you wanted to, you could take one of your partners or one of the opponents in the game, and like you see in the movies now, you could take them by the hand or the feet and swing them around in a big circle and just fling them into another building, and they go crashing through the concrete, crashing through the glass, but they come out totally unharmed because, again, you know, our bodies are free of that danger. And even the natural people, part of the deal during the 1,000 Years of Peace is we're helping to create technology that will allow them to play those kind of games too. We'll be developing jetpacks and flying devices and suits that make them virtually invulnerable, and or building force fields, actual force fields that will create a kind of invisible suit that covers their whole body, so that they too can also leap from building to building and smash through concrete without serious injury. We still have to be careful with them because they'll still have bones, and they'll still be able to be cut and stuff like that. So they'll still be able to play those superhero games, but not as dramatically as we, with our regenerated bodies, can play in what I call Playground Town. And there's also another game that we, with regenerated nature, can play that I like to call Skydrop. Is that we go up as high as we can into the atmosphere. There's 4 or 5, 6 people, however many want to get involved. And while we're at the top of the atmosphere, we just let ourselves drop. So it's basically a free fall all the way down until we get as close to the earth as possible, and then we stop just instantly and see who gets as close to the earth as possible without actually touching it. And the person who gets closest wins, I guess, basically. Again, it's just for the thrill of being able to free fall all the way down to the ground without touching it. Again, just for the adrenaline rush of it, just because some people like that sort of adrenaline rush, like myself. So that's one of the games we'll be playing. And there's also a vortex game. Because we'll be able to fly. I got to back up a bit. I've noticed when I'm driving, and I've also seen it on many science-based programs, that when a large vehicle like a semi-truck is driving along, there's always a kind of jet stream, a little vortex that follows behind them, where the air circulates and then it disappears. But there's always a blank zone where the air is leaving the vehicle, it's circling around and then coming back out. So there's a point on the jet stream of any moving vehicle that goes through the air where the air is circling back towards the vehicle. And so because we will be able to fly, I propose a game where we can ride the vortex. We can find that zone where there's no air so that we won't be thrown back or we won't be thrown forward. We're looking for that sweet spot in the vortex of any moving vehicle. And during the 1,000 Years of Peace, we'll be building flying vehicles and cargo vehicles that are not based on aerodynamic qualities or attributes. They won't need thrust in order to move through the air. We'll develop some sort of anti-grav technology that will allow. Basically, it will be like having an 18-wheeler semi-truck driving through the air. It doesn't have to be aerodynamically designed in order to travel through the air. It could be a big hunk of square steel or something like that. But it'll be able to fly through the air, and it'll create that kind of vortex that we can fly in behind and find the sweet zone and just glide there for a while. It's just a silly little game just to take up time or just for something to do. Again, I mentioned thought games like a kind of hide and seek that I thought would be really cool to play. And because we'll be able to communicate with each other through the Spirit, we'll be able to think our thoughts from one person to the other. So basically it's like a hide and seek game. You count to 10 or count to 100 and one person goes to some other part of the planet somewhere. And we have no idea where they're hiding. But they can send us clues such as, okay, the sun is at this particular degrees and I can see this particular kind of plant and I can see these particular kind of animals, and then it's up to us to guess to try and find out where they are. And because we can think ourselves from one place to the other, we can easily zip to where we think it is, look around, find them, or try to find them, and if they're not there, okay, give me another clue, where are you? And they'll say, okay, well, I can see this sort of thing, I can see that sort of thing, where am I? And again, that particular game can also be played on a galactic level too. Based on where the stars are, based on what kind of planet it is. If we're going to play that kind of game in our solar system, someone can hide on say Titan, on one of the moons of one of our distant planets, and they'll give a clue saying, oh, the atmosphere is composed of this kind of gas, or the mountain range looks like this, or the sun is this particular degree on the horizon, or the sun is this big, or the sun is this tiny. And from those clues, we'll have to guess what moon or what planet they're on. Galaxy games and celestial games, all done at the speed of thought, just for something to do. Again, it's just one of those fun things. And there's even dream games too, as I mentioned. I'm sure the angels or the Lord will show us how to access the dream realm. And when we're in the dream realm, that'll be totally different than being in heaven and totally different than being on the earth. Because in the dream realm, you're able to change your atmosphere, you're able to change the ambience around you, or the environment around you, and you can even change your appearance too. So you can play all kinds of games within the dream realm as well. I mentioned the Galaxy games. Okay, there's one thing that I would like to do. It's not really a game, but it's just kind of a neat sort of event. During the 1,000 Years of Peace, as I had mentioned before, we're going to be building a kind of star fleet so that the natural people will be able to explore the galaxies after the 1,000 Years of Peace. Yeah, you'll be able to play too. There'll be games with animals as well. And Spaceship. Oh, right. Okay, and the spaceship. And so while we're building this particular Starfleet, however many ships there we'll be making, I would like to take one of those ships, one of those big aircraft carrier type ships, and go to some random planet out there in the galaxy that has a very early civilization that hasn't been grown or is not technologically developed. And at some point in the night, unaware or unknown to anybody on the planet, take the spaceship and bury it underground, so that at some point in their growing civilization, whether it's in the Bronze Age or the technically developed age where they have buildings and flying machines themselves, eventually at some point in that planet's history, they're going to uncover this buried ship. And in the buried ship, there's going to be a message that will show them how to operate the ships. And it will also tell them that at some point in their history, people from the planet Earth are going to come across this planet. And they can take the ship and they can fly to the brightest star in the universe, which will be the planet Earth. Because after the 1,000 years of peace, God moves himself and the city out of heaven and onto the planet Earth. And the planet Earth then becomes the brightest star in the entire universe. So at some point on this distant civilization's development, they're going to see at some point the brightest star come to be. And the message in the spaceship will be something like, when you see the brightest star up here, then you will know that God has moved his dwelling place in heaven onto the planet Earth. And the people from the planet Earth will one day have a ship similar to the one you've just found, and they will meet up with you and talk with you, and you can take this ship and you can go see God on the planet Earth where the ship came from.